Private water companies, a sensible way to get much-needed investment into Victorian infrastructure or siphoning dividends from a public utility were forced to pay for. Much of the public now supports renationalisation, a policy for the first time in decades has a realistic chance of being enacted. But the chief executive of Severn Trent is clear that would take the industry backwards and threaten services. In an exclusive for this programme and her first broadcast interview, I met Liv Garfield far underground at a £60 million project to create a new sewer system for Newark.
So right now we are underneath one of the main streets of Newark, and we are looking at the brand new tunnel boring machine, which is going to create a £60 million investment in Newark. And what we're looking at is we're looking at a brand new pipe to protect 400 homes from any sewer flooding going forward.
So literally no one has been down here before. This is untouched territory.
Absolutely untouched territory. We're about probably 14 metres away right from the very coal front, and if we were there we would literally be able to bore that tunnel and create the future.
And when did you identify the need to build this tunnel?
So about a few years ago we were looking across the patch and trying to work out which is the next best place to spend money on infrastructure in terms of protecting for the future. And we could see a number of homes in Newark were either at risk of flooding or it had flooding. And we took the call that said, actually, although it's complicated and we'll need to build literally 20 different shafts and access points and 4 kilometres worth of work across the piece, we knew we could really protect those homes by spending the money. So we chose Newark, and we've worked brilliantly with the people of Newark to be able to make this a reality.
But to be clear, this is a cost to the business rather than anything that's going to benefit you. This is protecting houses from flooding, essentially.
Precisely. It's an investment, but I think that's what the sector does well, is we've spent £150 billion in the last, since privatisation. We're due to spend £10 billion over this 5-year period, and it's an expensive business's water to invest for the future, but every 5 years you choose a few towns and you invest in the infrastructure and make sure they're protected for 25 years.
So what are the other big projects that you've got on over this regulatory period?
So the big pride and joy right now for Severn Trent would be there's a £300 million project where we're protecting the water into Birmingham. We've got a beautiful aqueduct which goes gravity-fed 78 kilometres all the way down from Wales into Birmingham, and it's been there for 100 years. We want it to be there for the next 100 years. We're currently spending money investing that, building bypasses around it, creating second access points to make sure that beautiful aqueduct is still there for the 100 years to come.
I mean, one of the big points behind privatisation initially was that the public sector wouldn't have the money, the resources to invest in upgrading the infrastructure. But I mean, this is kind of a painting the fourth bridge job, isn't it? You've constantly got to be doing that.
So you've constantly got to invest. I think the argument has been proven to be correct though, because if you look at pre-privatisation, for those 25 years, we see half as much investment of the 25 years post-privatisation. So private money has been able to bring in more funds, more resources to justify projects like Newark, and that's £60 million for 400 homes. So to be fair, the case would always be tricky. I think private money's been able to bring that in.
A lot of critics will say, oh yes, but hang on, a lot of the money's just going straight out to the shareholders in dividends.
So yeah, but if you looked at the facts around that, you'd see £150 billion and you'd see a many, many times smaller amount that's gone out in dividends. So I think the facts of the matter are the sector is an investment sector.
One of the things that you've got to do as a priority for the industry is future-proof it, population growth. What's that like in Severn Trent's patch?
So we actually have the second highest population growth of anywhere in the country, so 20% increase over the next 20 years. So a huge influx of people or growth of population. So the types of things you can imagine we're doing, we're trying to work out where those people will live, we're looking at the infrastructure locally, we're building pumping stations, we're upgrading sewers, we're upgrading water treatment works to make sure we're ready. It's also working with developers quite early, because of course you can never quite tell where people are going to choose to buy homes, so working with them to understand their intelligence helps us get ready. That's behaviourally how we've behaved over a long period of time.
Why do you think it is then that so many people seem to now support the water companies going back into public ownership?
So I think there's lots of debate, and I don't know whether we know that that is necessarily the case. I think there's lots of debate. I think when I look at the facts seem to be very strong. So investment has happened since privatisation at twice the level before. If you look at the service stats, and I think every single party politically agrees that service performance is excellent in this sector, so you're 5 times less likely to turn on your tap and not have water, you're 8 times less likely to go into your lounge and find there's raw sewage in it, there's a third of the number of leaks there ever used to be. So I think everyone agrees on that. I think the debate, as I understand it, when I see it play out in the press, is there opaqueness? Is there lack of transparency regarding the corporate structures? It certainly isn't true for me in Severn Trent. We couldn't be more transparent. So I think it's an interesting debate, but I think that the results of the sector will continue to prove our merit.
But how worried are you about the possibility of being renationalised?
So the things I worry about are whether my customers turn on the tap and they get water. I worry about big infrastructure projects like this, whether we deliver them to time and to budget. And I worry about making sure that my people are safe every single day and that my customers feel I'm doing the right thing. That's what I'm worried about, and that's what I'll stay worried on.